Hello and welcome back to the Progressive Moose. I'm Andrew. Today's topic, Canada getting dragged into the Israel-Hamas conflict. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to show you CBC's coverage of this. This was yesterday, and we'll talk about it after.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is away. We begin tonight with growing tensions tied to the Israel-Hamas war, playing out in one of the world's most important trade routes. Cargo ships in the Red Sea are being targeted by Houthi rebels based in Yemen, they say in solidarity with Palestinians. The Red Sea is a critical shipping route that leads to the Suez Canal. Today, 2 more vessels in those waters were hit by drones. Many shipping companies are now opting for a safer but longer route that takes them around Africa. An international coalition is now scrambling to provide security, and Canada is playing a part. Kayla Hounsell takes us through that and how it's already impacting trade.
Attacks like this by Yemen's Houthi militia on ships in the Red Sea have been escalating. A response, it says, to Israel's assault on the Gaza Strip. Energy giant BP is now the latest to pause sending ships through the Red Sea, causing both oil and European natural gas prices to rise.
If creating a disruption in global trade flows was the Houthis' intended effect, then yes, we are going to see that level of disruption.
4 of the world's 5 largest container shipping companies are now pausing transit through the Red Sea. Many are diverting their ships around the southern part of Africa, causing delays. They're also charging a war risk surcharge.
That then is passed on to the consumer in terms of increased pricing.
This expert says those companies move everything from household goods to electronics to telecom equipment between Europe and Asia. But most goods coming into Canada, he says, are not shipped through the Suez Canal, so the fastest impact on Canadians may be the price at the pumps. BP's announcement is raising fears more companies may also stop sending their ships through the canal.
So much of global trade goes through the Suez Canal. It's about 12% of the total global trade volume. That's a huge amount.
Over the weekend, U.S. and other military forces say they shot down more than a dozen drones in the area.
These attacks are reckless, dangerous, and they violate international law. And I would remind you that this is not just a U.S. issue. This is an international problem, and it deserves an international response.
That international response involves a coalition of a number of countries, including Canada. But a Houthi spokesperson told Al Jazeera the group is ready to confront any coalition.
All right, Kayla, what more can you tell us about Canada's involvement in this new international coalition?
Well, the Pentagon says it will carry out joint patrols in the southern Red Sea and in the nearby Gulf of Aden. We don't have a lot of details on Canada's involvement, but a government source tells CBC News Canada will be deploying a handful of personnel to the international task force, but no ships. We do expect more details on what those personnel will be doing to follow, Asha.
Something to keep an eye out for. Thank you, Kayla.
All right, so as you saw there, Canada is going to be part of a group of countries that are going to start patrolling because of the different attacks to merchant ships. Which, let me be very clear. I'm not a fan of war. I'm not a fan of military action, that sort of stuff. So when I talk about this, it's not from a perspective of keeping the peace. And I do my best to be unbiased in that sense, because I do realize there is a reason for military, especially when it comes to, say, homeland security sort of stuff, or, just making sure that we're protected as a country. I do believe Canada has done great things with its military when it comes to peacekeeping and humanitarian issues. That being said, this Israel-Hamas conflict I've condemned Hamas to plenty of people, and I'm making very clear that I condemn Hamas and what they've done and what they continue to do, but I also condemn Israel for things that they are doing. Okay, and hopefully I can make a video to break that down and give you more of a perspective, more information to give you a better perspective on the war, because I really do think it's important to dive into that one. But that being said, now other countries are getting involved in terms of patrolling, shipping lanes essentially in the oceans, and yeah, they're going to be out there protecting merchant ships. So we might not be sending ships, but we are sending personnel at this point to partake in that. So at this point, Canada is a part of this conflict, along with other countries too, of course. Like they said, like it's not just Canada; it's a whole group of countries that are getting involved. And yeah, I agree that these ships need to be protected. I agree that all the different, I'll say, entities that have kind of popped their heads up now with Hamas, right? So don't, I can't give you a list off the top of my head right now, but I know there is definitely, it's more than just Hamas at this point. There's terrorist organizations out of Iran, out of Yemen, I believe out of Libya as well, and there has been armed conflict with them now, in amongst everything else that's going on in this conflict. So, and I condemn all those terrorist organizations. Okay, I condemn them all. They shouldn't exist. I agree with that. And I won't get into it on this video, but there's definitely, do I believe that we're going about things the right way? Do I believe that Israel has been going about things the right way? No, I don't. And, I'm not being anti-Semitic in saying that, so please just don't even go there. I'm talking about, when I talk about Israel, I'm not talking about its civilians. I'm not talking about the everyday people. I'm talking about its government. I'm talking about its military. I'm talking about, those in charge. So I'm not grouping all Israelis together in that sense. I'm purely talking about the people in charge when I talk about Israel. And when I talk about Hamas, I'm talking clearly about Hamas, the terrorist organization, not Palestinians, okay? And there is a difference between those, and we need to understand that as well. But anyway, so Canada is getting dragged into this one, and we'll have to see what happens once we get more information and see where it goes. I'm not a fan of war. I don't believe there should ever be war. I don't, I want peace around the world. Do I believe that Israel has a right to protect itself? Absolutely. After what happened on October 7th, it's, they had a right to protect themselves. And there's more information on all that sort of stuff. Again, I won't get into it. But at this point, given the information, and I am going to make a video to try and break it down a bit more, the best that I can, but given the information that's out there, at this point, is it Israel protecting itself as opposed to more, or as opposed to just blatant killing at this point? And yeah, I'll get into that another time. But as for right now, Canada's putting its military in the barrel, so to speak, and now we're a part of this conflict. I thought it was important to cover this and make sure that everyone knew that this was going on. And you can look, CTV, CBC is the one that I used, and there's Global. There's so many of the outlets have had a story on this in one way or another. Pretty much the same idea across the board, saying that we're getting involved in that sense, and that's, so yeah, so the information's readily out there. Everyone's covering it right now. United States news is covering it because the United States has been involved from from the beginning and continues to be. So yeah, so it's being covered everywhere, and yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye on that and go from there. All right, guys. Until next time.